read by you, Dr. Nkuna. I've only been told you Dr. Nkuna. I haven't been told the rest. I hope during the introductions I'll capture that. Honorable members, we have before us a team from the Reserve Bank of Malawi who were invited to appear before the committee and update us on the performance of the Export Development Fund and also on policy issues governing industry, trade, and tourism. We also highlighted that they should engage us on issues, challenges that the bank may be meeting or facing that may be of significance to the committee. Colleagues, I will therefore proceed with the meeting based on that invitation. Thank you very much for honoring it. And let me begin the meeting by introducing the honorable members of this committee. Let's do the self-introductions, starting from Lilongwe City, Zenza.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and the team. Good morning, Reserve Bank. My name is Jonathan Ifune, representing the people of Lilongwe City, Zenza. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. From Chiefs West constituency, this is Moses Chakana. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, good morning and you're welcome, Reserve Bank. My name is Masoko Gordon Saligen, representing the people of Blantyre City, Mbayani Musa Magasa constituency. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, I'm Howard Nzamboiremba, MP for the Zaboma constituency.
Good morning, Lloyd Malola, representing the people of Chikwankombezi. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fisher Nkwaze, representing the people of Nsembareles. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Overton Imedi, representing the people of Mangochi Northeast constituency. Thank you.
Good morning, and through you, Chair. My name is Mason Jambo, representing people of Zomba Antonia. Thank you.
Chair, I'm Francis Kasaira from Sanch Central.
Chair, I'm Frank Mwenifumbo from Karonga Central.
Secretariat.
Through the Honorable Chairperson, I'm Sunge Kalomo, Parliament Secretariat.
Honorable Chairperson, I'm Harold Kwalimba, Parliament Secretariat.
Thank you very much. And my name is Akim Kumwenda, Member of Parliament from Zimba West constituency, and I chair this committee that you're engaging with today. Team leader, may I hand over to you to introduce your team.
Thank you so much, Chair, for according to Reserve Bank and EDF to come before you. First of all, would like to convey sincere apologies from the governor. He was supposed to be here, but unfortunately the IMF team, the mission is in the country, so he's leading the team. Once again, sincere apologies. Oneli Nkuna, Director of Foreign Flows Monitoring, on behalf of the governor. And let me ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Frederick Janza, Managing Director for Export Development Fund.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members of the committee. I'm Ingris Yamirando, Chief Operating Officer for EDF. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and the committee. My name is Edward Mtulutsa. I'm the Chief Credit and Investment Officer for EDF. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. I'm Emmanuel Muleso, Principal Analyst in the Foreign Flows Monitoring Department at the Reserve Bank. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once again, welcome to Parliament. This is your Parliament, the People's Forum. We would like to find out, do you have a presentation or presentations to make?
Chair and honorable members, yes, EDF has a presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm shortly going to give you the platform to make your presentation. Before you do, let me just clarify that indeed the invitation made special mention of the fund. By extension, we also wanted to hear general matters which are within the mandate of the bank with regards to industry, trade, and tourism facilitation. Hearing you, I think from your submission that you have a presentation from EDF, I want to just mention that we still consider that the bank is here and we might have interventions from the members beyond EDF that are touching on matters industry and trade. I hope will not ambush you, and where possible and where need be, we will discuss how we can approach such interventions as we go. Let me give you time to make your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair and honorable members. Before the Managing Director, Mr. Fred Chanza, make a presentation, we've heard from your preliminary remarks, and indeed would make a brief presentation on the issues relating to the export performance, more especially that is within the mandate of the Reserve Bank. Chair and honorable members, I think the need to grow the export need not to be overemphasized, as we all know that the country is in dire need of the foreign exchange. Whilst the import bill continues to grow, whilst the appetite to import continues to increase, on the other hand, the exports are dwindling. On the other hand, we are just singing the song of export diversification. And indeed, because of this, whilst the Reserve Bank, the core mandate is mainly on the demand side, on the management of foreign exchange, but seeing it that there's also need to diversify and indeed to support the foreign exchange on the terms of the supply, that's why the EDF came on the fore. So the role of the EDF, which is a subsidiary of the Reserve Bank, is to support in generating the foreign exchange. As such, I would request the Managing Director to make the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair, and the members of the committee. It's a joy for us to come to make a presentation.
MD, just a moment. Honorable members, the presentation on the screen is the same as the one which has been circulated, I'm told. You might wish to make reference as the presentation is being made. You may proceed.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair. The Director has already introduced why EDF is there. So I'm going to just add to the mandate. EDF exists to correct market failures. In the real sector, financial sector, Malawi being a virgin economy where we don't have many brownfield industries, there's need for financing. And that financing is with the commercial banks, institutional investors, and they have stringent assessment rules, obviously because they have a fiduciary duty towards their investors who are the depositors. That requires collateral, that requires even the investment horizon to be short. So it's by nature that funds will flow where it is safest. If we are going to unlock the economy, Chair and committee members, we all know that that requires patience, it requires a little bit of more risk. And as such, you find that the financial sector is not as available to invest in new projects, especially where they are not bankable. And that's where EDF comes in. So we correct that market failure to make sure that we can assist the economy in rechanneling finances, resource allocation to where it is needed. So we're a policy organ. We do funded and unfunded facilities. Our approach, we've got 3 pillars. Number 1 is project preparation, to make sure that we have got bankable projects. Number 2 is to work with the prepared projects or other projects at whatever stage for fixed capital formation, be it a startup, be it expansion. So we do provide financing for industries and for export. Thirdly, we need working capital, trade finance, so we also focus in there. What is our unique value proposition? We focus on high impact projects that commercial banks, as I said, may not readily finance. So working with them, we make the projects viable, de-risked, and to be able to finance and help the nation. Number 2, we don't just do that because we're a policy organ aligned to the national aspirations. Then we deliberately channel investment to where government has prioritized. And then number 3, we transform concepts into bankable projects. So we are all aware there are so many opportunities in Malawi, but an opportunity that is not prepared is not going to see the light of day. So we come in that space as a unique issue. And then we also go along the value chain from production all the way to exportation. So we finance different segments along the way. We also mobilize capital, be it in debt, equity, to make sure that we finance what is required in the country at affordable rates. And as I said, we are a policy organ. So we are not a policy maker, but once policies are made, there is need that institutions must be enablers on the implementation side, and that's what EDF is about. In terms of our governance chair, obviously we are owned by the Reserve Bank. We have got a board that manages the fund. Our accounts are audited by external auditors year in, year out. That provides assurance to stakeholders. The board was reconstituted in January after the tenure of the previous board had expired. Our board chairman is Dr. Ted Nankuma, and chair, just to also submit his apology, is away. He should have loved to be here. And then we are also members of SADC Development Finance Resource Center. We are actually at the moment the deputy chair of that institution. And under that, plus the African Association of Development Finance Institutions, we commit ourselves to the highest levels of risk management. And Chair, just to say that last year we improved, we got an A rating from a B rating the previous year, and we are hoping to have the same this year. Chair, for us to understand what EDF has offered to the economy, we need to understand where it's coming from in terms of its capital base. So it was established in 2012 with the capitalization of 1 billion. And then somewhere around 2013, we moved to 2.6 billion. 2017, somewhere around 5 to 7 billion. EDF started having a significant capital in 2018, 2019. That's when we moved to somewhere around 30 billion. And then in 2023, we were at 45 billion. 2024, we went to 70 billion in terms of capitalization. And as we speak, we are somewhere around 89 or 80, somewhere around 89 billion in terms of capitalization. Chair, I've said that to say that the institution is now 14 years old, but its impact is not a 14-year-old impact because of the story I just shared. 1 billion is a drop in the ocean. At that time, the gap in terms of the current account was around $680 million. With 1 billion kwacha to close that gap was far from adequate. And the investments we need, we require significant capital outlay if we are going to make a dent. So visually from 2012, somewhere 2018, I would say, Chair, that there wasn't much, and that in disguise it was a blessing because we learned also lessons that have helped the institution to mature and be ready to deliver the way it should deliver. Having said that, Chair, I want to move on to talk about the impact that EDF has had over time in terms of the external sector and the industrialization. So number one, we've got flagship projects, investments into industrial parks, of course sponsored by our project preparation facility. In 2019, we signed an agreement with Afrexim Bank to prepare industrial parks, one at Matindi in Blantyre, the other in Lilongwe at Magwero. Of course, on behalf of the government, working with all the government institutions, we finished feasibility studies in 2021. We had a bit of glitches to make adjustments and also find the investor, but eventually we found the investor in the name of Arise Integrated Industrial Platforms Limited. This is an investor who is owned largely by Afrexim Bank. They are in Africa, in over 10 countries. They have done industrial parks in Gabon, in Benin, in Togo. In Gabon, they are producing textiles. They export textiles to USA. I've been there personally. It's something that is amazing. In Benin, they have got textiles and others. Maybe the members of the committee might have seen recently, FIFA has actually granted a contract to that industrial park to produce the World Cup jerseys and what. So that was done by Arise itself. They also do textiles for Polo, for Zara. They're everywhere. They start from ginning, they all the way value chain, and to sewing. What the companies will do perhaps is just to put their brand. So we can see we saw that as well in Togo. They do cashew nuts, they do soya and others. Chair, I'm just sharing that to demonstrate their capacity and how they do business. So we found them, we've been working with them, and the proposal is that to start with Magwero, where they will take 65%, and then the government through EDF to take 35%, out of which that 35%, 10% would be offloaded to the private sector in the country to make sure that we are growing our industries as well. And as we go, there will be more participation. That is in the ownership of the infrastructure. but we are also encouraging local industries to operate from within the infrastructure. So once that is done, we are also working on the Matindi. At the moment, we are working with the government to get clearances and to make sure that we move. It's an important investment considering the issues that we are facing on the external sector side. Chair, we are also prioritizing mega farms. We believe that we need to go big. We pioneered some exports, and we learned lessons that if Malawi is going to make a dent in a globalized world where you have to plug in regional value chains, then you have to scale up production, because once you scale up production, you lower the average cost and then you make the price competitive. So we are working in that front. We are working with the Demeter. This is a farm that has got over 1,000 hectares. It's in Baraka. I'm sure that maybe all or some of the committee members, they know that. We financed them, this is the second year, to do beef production as well as beans production. And the Chair, this is a model, because in terms of beans, the yield per hectare is above 2 tons per hectare. But normally this will be 1.3 tons, 1.5 tons. So if we can pioneer and work with them to get where they should get in terms of expansion, that's what the country should be doing to expand in terms of exports. The beef it's done locally. I think we've all, not all, but they are widely, they are trading, they supply a lot of beef sellers. We are also working with press agriculture. Currently, we are looking at how we can reorganize the business, make it viable. We believe that them being the largest arable land holder, if they are supported properly, it can help the country to go far. Chair, beyond that, we are working on the cannabis sector, medicinal cannabis. We invested in a project, MMC, with Imbavi and others. We started constructions, started investment. We are at a place where we just need to add in a little bit of more forex so that we start trading. That company has got potential at its peak to generate $100 million as estimates. We went to Germany this year just to appreciate the market, and Chair, we see that it's a growing industry. So there's scope there. We believe that EDF can enable and unlock that productive capacity together with others to help the country. And then we also are into mining. We are currently preparing a limestone project for Rift Valley mining, and we are working with others in terms of the financing side, for Exim Bank and private sector here. We've done significant work with a competent person's report that is showing viability, but we are still doing more work. There's scope for exports and scope for domestic sales. Chair, I'll move on to gold and gemstones. On behalf of the Central Bank, as an agent, we are managing this project, which started in 2021. In the interest of time, I will not go through its evolution. Suffice to say, Chair, that between 2021 and 2025, we had accumulated around 585 kilograms of gold. We learned lessons. In 2026, thanks to the government for tightening security, working with the bank, we are seeing significant increase in the gold purchases. In 3 months, we've already bought over 330 kgs. I was checking our purchases
sorry, MD. team leader, I just want to give him the comfort that he has the time. And it's an area of interest to the committee. Take your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so as of yesterday, we were at 352 kilograms. You can see that, Chair, if we sustain that in a year, if we go by every 3 months and the trend remains the same, the initiatives are the same, we should be talking between 1 ton to 1.2 ton of gold. And in where we are, that is significant in alleviating forex issues. And Chair, if there's an area that we should all hold hands as a country, gold is that area. It's not even a low-hanging fruit. It is a fruit on the ground. We just have to pick it. And the good thing is that the central bank gives us the kwacha. We buy the gold immediately. That is $1. You can keep it as part of official reserves, or you can offload it. And what others have done, for example, Ghana, which had the serious FX issues, exchange rate issues, you mobilize that fast, you offload, you take the dollar, you dump it into the market, you stabilize the exchange rate, and then you stabilize the economy as well. And that's exactly what we are doing with the central bank. We are pushing hard in terms of this. We've had teething issues to this. The most challenging was and still remains illegal exportation smugglers. There are a lot of illegal buyers in the market, which is what the government has decisively decided to tackle. We are all aware of the security measures that were implemented recently. That is helping, and would like to seek your support, Chair, and your members, as well as I understand we are alive, as well as the nation, to work together to make sure that the gold comes to the central bank. Because with every gram of gold we sell to the central bank is another dollar created. That will really help us. If we smuggle it out, what it means is that people who sell, they may sell in Meticash, they may sell in shilling, they may sell in dollar, but that dollar will never come into the formal market, and then the country will continue to suffer. So we really request for support towards the project. Chair, I'll move on. In terms of maybe the gold project is not just on the forex side. I remember I was the first manager of this project. I started this project. I moved in every district, did the sensitizations, did the pricing framework and everything else. Chair, when we started out, gold was being bought at less than 20,000 kwacha at that time. And it was mostly foreigners, illegal foreigners buying. Our people were being exploited. We entered the market at around 35,000 kwacha in 2021. And the project was designed to complement the safety nets that we have, the Ntukulapa Commons. And as we speak, from 33,000, we are now buying the same gram of gold at a maximum of 570,000 kwacha, or 570 million a kilogram of gold. And when you move around, we did the impact assessment towards the end of the year 2025 to see what has been the impact. And Chair, the impact is interesting in a good way. We've seen people that have built iron sheeted houses. People have put solar. People have bought cars. People have bought cabazas. People have got livestock. You can see that lives have changed in those. To date, we've pumped over 400 billion kwacha into this project, and that has gone into the pockets of these people in the villages. and others are supporting their children going to school. So it's a good story. It's improving incomes. We need to continue to work in this regard, of course, managing all other issues that may be negative externalities associated. Chair, I want to move on to our performance, financial performance. Being a development finance institution publicly owned, tasked with the mandate to enable projects, Chair, we need to counterbalance with the soundness, sustainability. You cannot sustain something that you are empowering with unsustainability. So we operate on a recovery side. We are not profit maximization oriented, but we have to make a profit, knowing that the more we do, the larger the balance sheet becomes, the more we can achieve. We are coming from a background where we had the mishaps around 2017, 18, 19. It's no secret we had a forensic audit investigation. We lost some money, significant money. We were in a loss-making position. So the board, working with the shareholder, decided to say, let's strengthen governance, let's operate on financial soundness. And we set out in 2021, 22, coming this side to turn around the situation. And Chair, I think what I can report is that the institution has turned around. It's now profitable. And that is very important because the health of the institution is the resources it has. Without resources, there's no business that we are going to make. As we speak, 2025, I think we've posted a profit of 16.7 billion. Our total assets are at 122 billion. Our total equity, as I said, is 87.4 billion. I'd said 89, it's 87.4 billion. Our loan book, we've run it down significantly over the last 6 months. So it is now currently at 50 billion, and we want to repopulate the same to somewhere around 80 billion by the end of 2026. That is on the net. We had a significant non-performing loans in 2022. 62% of our loans were impaired. And we needed to implement strategies to turn that around. And Chair, I want to report that we've cleaned up the book. We've collected all that. Currently, our non-performing ratio is at 5%, which is in line with the financial laws. So I think that is important. And how did we go about this? Of course, collections were a part of it, but much more important, we had set ourselves to say, the way we generate business, the way we manage the risk, and the way we govern the fund is very important. So we introduced policies, obviously. We introduced segregation of duties in terms of business development, in terms of credit underwriting, monitoring. So we separated all these, and we also introduced what we call peer review structures within to make sure that we've got a pair of eyes counter-checking each other. We also strengthened in terms of internal audit and others. The board, thanks to the shareholder, it is independently appointed, it is professional, there is no interference, it's based on merit. And so the board guides us very well, and we are grateful for that. Combining all these, we have achieved that our NPL ratios are managed within those ranges. Chair, I want to move on to, I think at a glance, you can just see the highlights of what I said. But I want to move on to the products that we have in the fund. So across the value chain, what is it that we offer. We have got what we call contract farming and export agriculture. This is where we are working with the likes of Demeter, that we want to work with press agriculture, where we want to scale production, but in a demand-driven way. So market intelligence that informs us that this region is looking for soya, this region is looking for wheat. For example, there is a market for wheat in Egypt. If we develop the wheat value chain on a demand-driven, having already contacted, and that's the way that we are working. So this is something that is under implementation. The fruits are not yet felt as they should be felt, but we are in the right direction. We also have what we call construction and export manufacturing guarantee and refinancing facility. Under this one, we've done it with the Rift Valley mining that we're saying. We are also exploring to do it and scale it up. So the problem statement is that here is the real sector. Someone wants to do project preparation, they want to do construction, they want to go into revenue, and they require, for example, 7 years or 8 years before they can start repaying the loan properly. If you take that tenor, you take the risks involved, you go to the commercial banks on a plain vanilla basis, the market will fail there. And so we innovated to say, what can we do? So we said, we put up a framework where we are saying, let's pass on the construction risk to other financiers, but under our guarantee. And that guarantee will spell to say, if you are financing this one, you are going to have independent consultants that are qualified, that align to the laws, international accepted. So we agree with the counter financer. And then we say, since your own tenors may be 3 to 4 years, you restrict yourself to the 4 years or 3 years. After that, we are going to refinance you, pay off and take the debt, and then add working capital to make sure that the project is supported. In so doing, you would have made available to the real sector long-term financing, but with the short-term financing by different players. But also by doing that, because we are providing a guarantee, it's a step in the right direction, because there's risk de-risked, and therefore the pricing of the facilities should be declining. In so doing, we are promoting access to affordable trade and development finance. So this is targeting industrialization. Chair, our belief and our philosophy in line, of course, with the government, Agenda 2063, is that we need to industrialize first. And if we are going to do it, we need a critical mass to achieve in terms of industrialization. And that is why industrial parks are at our heart. Because the larger the scale, the better you are able to compete. If we are going to depend on SMEs only, we will have problems to integrate. So we need these large-scale industries, but they should be integrated in a way that they can incubate SMEs to grow, so that eventually they also become large corporates. So this facility is very important to us and to the nation in fulfilling our agenda. I already talked about project preparation facility, where we prepare the ideas. Chair, the fact that we prepare and we assume the risk, we don't assume it without mitigants. So we share the risk even with the sponsors. There still has to be some sort of collateral that is involved. If it is virgin, it's something that, for example, would demand you must have land that is unencumbered. We don't want to say we'll give you money now to buy land and do everything else. Then we become the sponsor. So everybody has to share. Share at the risk of being misinterpreted. I want to say if getting rich was that simple, everybody should be rich. Yeah, so sometimes they say what you don't, what costs you nothing, you will not manage. So the sponsors need to show skin in the game, and that is why we require some of these things. But then it's a win-win situation. Chair, we've also seen that while debt is important, sometimes we require even more patient capital, which is equity. There are some projects that are high impact, others are strategic, others may actually be too big to fail, and therefore requiring equity. For example, the industrial parks, without the government taking some form of equity, it becomes unattractive. Why? It's a long-term investment, it's big investment, it will attract at least 300 million with foreign investors, local investors. They want to be assured that there will be no sovereign risk in terms of expropriation and other issues like those. So if government is in there through institutions like EDF, it does enable investment. So equity investment is very important in the country, especially at this time when the global markets are sneezing, they are very volatile, the domestic market is volatile. This is the time to consider investing in equity so that once we are on the other side of the curve, things have stabilized, businesses would have been enabled, and then things are moving on properly. So while we take equity, we've got equity in the MMC, as we said, we've got equity in tourism, we are considering equity in the mining sector. So Chair, that said, we have to counterbalance. Our balance sheet is still at a baby stage, it's nascent. 122 billion is not that much, but we are prioritizing on what we can do in the equity space. We also do export parking credit and the hotel guarantee and advisory services. I think this is just to enable exporters, things like packaging, making sure that things are nicely done. One of the issues, you may have quality products, but sight is very important to consumers. So the way we package ourselves is very important, and EDF is investing in that space. Chair, I want to talk about how we are aligned to the policy framework in Malawi, our strategic positioning. When we do our strategic plan, one of the key documents we consider is the national export strategy, because we're in the export sector. Of course, we also do import substitution, so we align ourselves to there, making sure that we are moving in tandem with the nation and not in contradiction. We also look at the main agenda, like in this case, Agenda 2063, to make sure that we are aligned. And we don't just align, we have got a sweet spot because we are a public institution. So on one hand, we are government, on the other side, we are in the financial sector, and then we also go in the real sector. So you have sort of some kind of understanding, feedback. We do policy advocacy where we recommend to say, here things should be this way or that way. And in that regard, for example, Chair, we played a significant role in the enactment of the Special Economic Zone law. We contributed a lot. We actually sponsored its development, the meetings and what we were sponsoring that. So we do that kind of work in collaboration with the government. We are also cognizant of the fact that Malawi is a member of the African Continental Free Trade Area, and we believe in the philosophy. And under that, we consider under our strategic plan. For example, one of our strategic pillars is promotion of intra-African trade. Our belief is that there are value propositions that Malawi has. We have got competitive advantage that we can capitalize on. For instance, when we're doing the feasibility study for the industrial parks, we noted that Malawi has got a competitive advantage, for example, in the dairy, cereals, in light manufacturing, and that's what informed the design of the industrial parks. So we were looking at the competitiveness, we were looking at comparative advantage, and then we were also looking at the marketable surplus. So which value chains have got a marketable surplus at the current production that we can start from, and then we can scale up. And then as we do so, it will be competitive. So we established markets within Africa and outside of Africa. So that is something that we consider. We also attempted to open up the market in South Sudan, and that was in response to the same. Chair, this issue hasn't worked as well. The main issue, apart from all logistical issues that may have been there, is the price discovery. Our pricing ended up being much higher. With our first sale, it was actually on the understanding that we'll be reducing the price as we expand production, but they bought us on a subsidy. And that's why we couldn't continue, because the pricing is not allowing. So the market is there for flour, market is there for whatever, but because currently the country is producing in small bits, subsistence farming, and then you have to aggregators add markup and all these transport logistics, the price becomes expensive. And maybe this also explains why sometimes I'm not advocating, but explaining the informality of the sector, smuggling, because people are running away from certain things just to make sure that the pricing is acceptable elsewhere. We are grateful that government is doing something about this in terms of creation of a national exchange commodity exchange. We believe that with mandates and everything else, this issue will be resolved, even as we support large-scale farming, Chair. We also do focus on market infrastructure. Yeah, we believe that there has to be adequate trade carrying infrastructure, again, integrated in issues like industrial parks, because in the world that we are in, the borders are more open. It's a global village. Chair, people don't have patience to come invest in roads and water and what. They just want to come and park, do their business, and essentially why we are doing industrial parks, so that we can enable trade carrying infrastructure. So, Chair, I think that's how we align ourselves. We were being asked to say, what are the challenges that you face? I think the greatest challenge is a vicious circle, Chair. On one hand, as a DFI, we have to do counter-cyclical measures apart from long-term development. We should be able to dampen the sting of business cycles. But still, as we do so, they say a doctor can treat others, but a doctor can also get sick. We play in the same economy, and therefore the macroeconomic fundamentals affect us equally. So I think the greatest challenge is the operating environment where there's high inflation, which we have to contribute to reduce, but in the process of doing, we are still buying things at the same price, doing everything at the same price, and therefore it does affect us and how much we can do. The second issue, Chair, I think I talked about the competitiveness. Since we are encouraging industrialization, and I should add that it's wisdom for Malawi, and we have already chosen that we have to front agro-processing. You don't start from what you don't have. So agro-processing, very important, and that brings in the primary agriculture sector. And on one hand, we are a net importer. We've got fertilizer and other things that we are buying at the moment, which with the global geopolitical issues, is not helping matters. The farmers need to have viability, and therefore the government needs to think about farm gate prices to make sure that at least there is return for the investment. On the other side, we are not in a silo. We're in a global world where it's cutthroat competition. It's on the issue of price plus quality. And the prices are really declining elsewhere. So for instance, last year we wanted to enable exports of soya. And then you would agree with me that soya converted in dollar in Malawi was selling at, I think, 1.2 or 4. $1,400 per ton. Yet the same soya landed cost in China was at $700. So even without transport, the export can't happen. So now we are saying, while balancing all issues, can we look at how we do the price discovery, allowing for market forces and some level of intervention. But as we do that, we have to have in mind that we want to export. Because if we can't export, we can't sustain our imports. Donors are what they are. We appreciate for what they have done, but we need sustainable sources of FX, which is in production. So I think that's a paradox we need to grapple with as a country. And as a committee, I believe this is an area that you need to look at closely. How best can we balance these competing issues? Chair, in terms of governance, portfolio quality, I think that is no longer a challenge. We had a challenge, we've resolved it, we are on top of it. We just require your support. Where you see EDF doing something, we are together, as you have already said. Just support us, Chair. Conclusion is the same things I have already said, what we've done. I don't want to go back into all that. But what I want to say is that we have got a modest balance sheet, which we are working at growing it. We believe that the larger the balance sheet, the more we can do, the larger the ticket that we can sponsor, and the faster we can help the economy. So we are working with the shareholder on diversifying capitalization, both in terms of equity and debt. So that is something that is already in progress. Our commitment to this committee, Chair, we believe that transparency and accountability are very key. And we are deliberate in our target operating model. In managing stakeholders at EDF, we believe in transparency. One, we publish our results, our financial results. Two, we started producing what we call a trade and development impact report. We are just producing one now where we report all these issues, and we put that on the internet. Anyone can access it anytime. We believe that the true shareholder of EDF is the ordinary Malawian in the street, and therefore people have to know. We strengthened our media public relations just to make sure that people know what is going on in their institution. So, Chair, we are available for transparency, accountability, engagements. We want to work with stakeholders. In today's world, it's about networks. If you don't want to work with others, you are going nowhere. So EDF believes in that. Our request, Chair, we've talked about gold. Even in our absence, we want to ask the committee that it should be an ambassador wherever you're engaging, knowing that every word you spread about this God that is positive can reap a dividend in terms of dollars. And all of us will be happy that if Forex is available, the exchange rate is stable. With a stable exchange rate, Forex available, we improve the doing business environment, and then we can crowd in investment. So, Chair, we need your support in that regard. We need your support in terms of special economic zones, in whatever way on the policy front. You are also honorable members in your own constituencies. These are things that we should be talking with our people when they see investments like this, not to oppose them, but to support, to make sure that we all enjoy the benefits of economic growth and development. Chair, I think that's what we would request from yourselves. We believe that you can work with ourselves for the sake of ordinary Malawians. I want to finish by saying one of the long-term visions we have at EDF is to install what we call export credit agency services, where you support the export sector with guarantees, not only within, but they can also be outside. So we already did work with Afrexim Bank. We hired someone to help us, a company in Germany. They came up with a framework. We started working with the government. At the moment, it may not work because it requires the full faith and credit of the government. That means that the guarantees, the loans that we do should be treated as the same way Treasury would borrow, to strengthen confidence with people that we are working at. But looking at the debt stock now, maybe that's not the time to do that, but that's why we put it long term. We also have to make sure that we put sweeteners when it comes to commercial banks and other investors to take up the facilities by how we treat them. I don't want to go into technical details, but under prudential guidelines on a capital charge, when they take the instrument, should it be treated as a risk instrument, or should it be treated the same way we would treat a treasury bill or a treasury note? So those are things that we already have been working with the central bank. But this is important because, one, it aligns us to world export credit agencies. Two, because we are aligned, we'll be able to attract large lines of credit at affordable rates, and that is very important for the country. And those lines of credit would go towards fixed capital formation, expansion, startups, and also reorientation. We've been talking about tobacco being the mainstay, but maybe we should talk more about when we diversify, and some of those companies that have been in the tobacco sector, how are we preparing them to reorient into other sectors, given that they already have got the experience on the international market? How can we use them to develop other value chains? And under these ECA services, once it comes online, we should be able to support in that direction. So, Chair, I think this is what we wanted to report to the committee. Again, we are very grateful that today we are here. I would like to yield back, but through my leader of delegation here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and honorable members. I don't know whether, from the bank's point of view, we should also add word to the issues that you stated, or maybe after his presentation, maybe members should react to the presentation first, or maybe.
Thank you very much, Leader of Delegation from RIBM. Honorable members, we've listened to the presentation from EDF. It was long, comprehensive, I know we are adults, so maybe let's take a short healthy break. In 10 minutes, let's walk back. You're all invited to tea. Tea is ready outside. From there, we will hear from your presentation, and then we'll give feedback. Sure. If 10 minutes is over, you still have your tea, just bring it over here. We are allowed, and then we can continue with our engagement. Thank you very much, honorable members and RPM.
Thank you, Chair.
Inu. Hey! Kuda wangu ndife. Mungu jamuli tapenepo. Mwabe mpajiroza kwa ndani. Udu sokoneze flow of traffic in Parliament precincts hapa. Wabe mpa kwa ndani. Aspika kuzidziwa zimenezo.
Kwa mabale kuleta ni maselfie omwe.
Madara, ndimu kuti wonjezatu. Sindu kuonjezani. Mungu jambula na maselfie kuti muzikati tinali ku parliament. Nichino zomwe za parliament mmazidziwa inu. Zota makamera za budget uzidziwa. Nena, budget ndi chani? Pompani.
Amwene, budget ndi chikonzero cha ndalama zomwe boma likuyenera kugwiritsa ntchito, ndipo budget iyi ngakhale imapangidwa ndi boma ku nduna za chuma imakadutsidwa ku parliament ndi fotokoza chonchi. Parliament ili ndi zolinga zitatu zomwe ndi kupanga malamulo, kupanga kalondolondo wa ndalama za boma, komanso kuyimirira anthu ku ma constituency. Kuvomereza budget, maplani za chuma ndi mbali imodzi yopanga lamulo. Maplani a chumawa mwazina amatambasula bwino lomwe komwe mutu olamula ukufuna kupanga zitukuko zosiyanasiyana. Maplani a chumawa ndiye tsinde la ndale, chifukwa maplaniwa amafotokoza tsatane wa yemwe akuyenera kulandira ndalamazi komanso kuti azilandira bwanji. President ndi kabineti yake akapanga mfundo za chitukuko ndi kuwerengera chuma chomwe chifunikire kuti mfundo zizitheke, amapita nazo zimenezi ku nyumba ya malamulo kuti zikavomerezedwe. Ndiye ndatitu kukonza bajeti kumayambira ku nduna za chuma, kenako nkukaperekedwa ku nyumba ya malamulo. Anthu atu amatsata njira zingapo kuti aonetsetse kuti dongosolo lopanga lamulo logwiritsa ntchito chuma cha dziko layenda bwino. Etu ndi mmene zimakhalira ima bwino ndi kuchambule statue ioneke. Hey, usaime polowera njale pa iwe zango zifai kuno. Maminista ndolemekezeka amalowera pamenepa, koma zomwe ndanenazo zamveketi kumayitsata parliament. Ine ndi speaker wa pageti, palibe kutenga masefa a parliament usakudziwa za nyumbayi. Ndagamula ndatha.
Koma ada speaker wa pageti uyu anakonza.
Ndimubwerera za official kamazalo ankatimu kusacheza ndi aphungu.
Kulondoloza ndalama za boma zotandiza pachitukuko. Kuonetsetsa kuti aphungu kuyimirira anthu awo.
Inu. Hey! Kuda wangu ndife. Mungu jamulitsa penepo. Mwabe mpajiroza kwa ndani. Udu sokoneze flow of traffic in Parliament precincts hapa. Wabe mpha kwa ndani. Aspika kuzidziwa zimenezo.
Kwa mabale kuleta ni maselfie omwe.
Madara, ndimu kuti wonjezatu. Sindu kuonjezani. Mungu jambula na maselfie kuti muzikati tinali ku parliament. Nichino zomwe za parliament mmazidziwa inu. Zota makamera za budget uzidziwa. Nena, budget ndi chani? Pompani.
amwene bajeti ndi chikonzero cha ndalama zomwe boma likuyenera kugwiritsa ntchito, ndipo bajeti iyi ngakhale imapangidwa ndi boma ku nduna zachuma imakadutsidwa ku Parliament. Ndifotokoze chonchi. Parliament ili ndi zolinga zitatu zomwe ndi kupanga malamulo, kupanga kalondolondo wa ndalama za boma, komanso kuyimirira anthu ku ma constituency, kuvomereza budget, mapulani azachuma ndi mbali imodzi yopanga lamulo. Mapulani achumawa mwazina amatambasula bwino lomwe komwe mutu wolamula ukufuna kupanga zitukuko zosiyanasiyana. Mapulani achumawa ndiye tsinde la ndale, chifukwa mapulaniwa amafotokoza tsatanetsatane wa yemwe akuyenera kulandira ndalamazi komanso kuti azilandira bwanji. President ndi kabineti yake akapanga mfundo za chitukuko ndi kuwerengera chuma chomwe chifunikire kuti mfundo zizitheke, amapita nazo zimenezi ku nyumba ya malamulo kuti zikavomerezedwe. Ndiye ndatitu kukonza bajeti kumayambira ku nduna zachuma, kenako nkukaperekedwa ku nyumba ya malamulo. Anthu atu amatsata njira zingapo kuti aonetsetse kuti dongosolo lopanga lamulo logwiritsa ntchito chuma cha dziko layenda bwino. Etu ndi mmene zimakhalira imabwino ndi kujambule statue ioneke. Hey, usaime polowera njale pa iwe zango zifai kuno. Maminista ndolemekezeka amalowera pamenepa, koma zomwe ndanenazo zamveka kumayitsata Parliament. Ine ndi speaker wa pageti, palibe kutenga masefa a Parliament usakudziwa za nyumbayi. Ndagamula ndatha.
Koma da speaker wa pageti uyu anakonza.
Ndimubwerera za official kamazalo mkatimu kusacheza ndi aphungu.
Kukazikitsa malamulo kulondoloza ndalama za boma zothandiza pachitukuko kuonetsetsa kuti aphungu akuyimirira anthu awo.
inu hey
kuda wankho ndife
mungu jambulitsa pamenepo mwapempha chilolezo kwa ndani kuti usokoneze flow of traffic in parliament precincts apa wapempha kwa ndani aspika kuzidziwa zimenezo
koma abale kuletsa ndi maselfi omwe
madala ndi mukuti wonjezatu
iyayi sindikuonjezani mungu jambulana maselfi kuti muzikati tinali ku palamenti ni ntchito zomwe za palamenti mumazidziwa ine zotama kamera za budget uzidziwa nena budget ndi chani pompani
amwene bajeti ndi chikonzero cha ndalama zomwe boma likuyenera kugwiritsa ntchito ndipo bajeti iyi ngakhale imapangidwa ndi boma ku nduna zachuma imakadutsidwa ku parliament ndi fotokoza chonchi parliament ili ndi zolinga zitatu zomwe ndi kupanga malamulo kupanga kalondolondo wa ndalama za boma komanso kuyimirira anthu ku ma constituency kuvomereza budget mapulani azachuma ndi mbali imodzi yopanga lamulo mapulani achumawa mwazina amatambasula bwino lomwe komwe mutu wolamula ukufuna kupanga zitukuko zosiyanasiyana mapulani achumawa ndiye tsinde la ndale chifukwa mapulaniwa amafotokoza tsatanetsatane wa yemwe akuyenera kulandira ndalamazi komanso kuti azilandira bwanji president ndi kabineti yake akapanga mfundo za chitukuko ndikuwerengera chuma chomwe chifunikire kuti mfundo zizitheke amapita nazo zimenezi ku nyumba ya malamulo kuti zikavomerezedwe ndiye ndatitu kukonza bajeti kumayambira ku nduna zachuma kenako nkukaperekedwa ku nyumba ya malamulo anthu atu amatsata njira zingapo kuti aonetsetse kuti dongosolo lopanga lamulo logwiritsa ntchito chuma cha dziko layenda bwino etu ndi mmene zimakhalira ima bwino ndikuchambule statue ioneke hey, usaime polowera njalepa iwe zangu zifayi kuno maminista ndolemekezeka amalowera pamenepa koma zomwe ndanenazo zamveketi kumayitsata palamenti ine ndi spika wa pageti palibe kutenga masefa a palamenti usakudziwa za nyumbayi ndagamula ndatha
koma ada spika wa pageti uyu anakonza
ndimubwerera za official kamazalo mkatimu kusacheza ndi aphungu
kukhazikitsa malamulo kulondoloza ndalama za boma zothandiza pachitukuko kuonetsetsa kuti aphungu akuyimirira anthu awo zolinga zita
Members, once again, sincere apologies. I think we did not read well the letter. We thought that the presentation would just be for EDF. Nonetheless, I will try to speak off the cuff from the technical point of view on the issues, on the policy space surrounding the trade industry and also tourism. Chair, in my remarks, I mentioned of the need to grow the exports. And one thing from the Reserve Bank, what we've noted, there are two things on exports. First of all, those who are exporting formally, there's delayed export reconciliation. And previously, of course, we had a piece of legislation, the Foreign Exchange Act 1984, that was obsolete. But currently, since 2025, we have got, I would say, a robust regulation, the Foreign Exchange Act of 2025. So, of course, under the old Foreign Exchange Act, we've been doing reconciliation and reminding the exporters. You might wish to know that earlier this year, we had published some names in the papers, I think about 25. Of course, one we managed to reconcile with his bank. These exporters, we gave them a specific period of time to come back to the bank and indeed confirm whether they have reconciled the exports or not. As I'm talking currently, the team is on the ground collecting statement with the Malawi police, preparing for prosecution of these 25 non-reconciled exporters. With regard to those who are not reconciling now, Chair and honorable members, I wish to state that the current Foreign Exchange Act is very stiff in terms of the penalties. The penalties are very stiff, the administrative penalties, but at the same time, after the administrative penalties, indeed can move to the prosecution. This is on the exports that are being channeled through the formal sector. We are able to reconcile, but of course they are delayed. Currently, the reconciliation rate is at 95. However, the biggest problem on the export in this country is on the informal sector. We have Malawians who, I would loosely use non-patriotic Malawians, who would apply the SID1 forms in the system using their own information and documentation. And indeed, as they are applying, they are seemingly legit exporters. They would get the SID1 forms, but then sell the SID1 forms to the non-Malawians. Now, the problem is, at that point in time, in the system, is showing that somebody is exporting. But now, if France sells these SID1 forms to non-Malawian, who at that point in time would have brought the foreign exchange and changed it at the black market, and then exports. At that point in time, we don't see the foreign exchange back. That's why we also have got a huge list of the exporters that have not reconciled. Recently, we had engaged the Minister of Trade to see how best we can handle this, considering that we noted that there are some new exporters who had been given large volumes of export. So with the Minister of Trade, we came up with a framework. We came up with thresholds to say that if one is a new exporter, he should demonstrate that indeed he can reconcile. He's bringing the export receipts back. Then he can be given more tonnage. So on this one, we are thankful to the law enforcement agents that the time that we needed them to go and get the statements for those who have not reconciled, they were there. However, we would want more support from the law enforcement agents because these merchandise, these goods, they pass through our borders, and the law enforcement agents are there. So just as the MD from EDF stated that these security that have been put in place in terms of the illegal, the smugglers in the minerals, we would also want to see this happening on the export. This, as long as we live, as long as the law enforcement agents and all the stakeholder institutions, we leave the situation to the status quo. These receipts, these export receipts, will continue to be in the black market. This country has got foreign exchange. This country has got the capacity to generate foreign exchange. It's only that this foreign exchange is in the informal sector, and it's not in the formal sector. So there's need for collaboration for institutions, including the law enforcement agents, including with your indulgence chair, the honorable members, to come together to ensure that these exports, they are not smuggled outside. The other problem that we are also seeing, of course, the MD mentioned, is the informal, the smuggling of the minerals. But as the EDF, the manager for EDF mentioned that we have seen that this has reduced, but we can still see some pockets here and there that the smugglers are still getting away with these illegal minerals, the gold and these other minerals. So we are hoping that with the safeguards that have been put in place in terms of strengthening security, we are hoping that this is going to improve. The situation is going to improve. Chair and are in the process of drafting a regulation that is going to govern the operations of this sector. Currently, the regulation is at an advanced stage of course, there were a lot of stakeholder engagements to ensure that once the regulation is out, it's indeed operational, that there are no hitches in the process. Chair, let me also mention on the diaspora space. Currently, there is a circular to commercial banks to ensure that they incentivize the diaspora people to ensure that they bring the foreign exchange to the country. However, this is not enforceable because it's just a circular. And just a few days, we were entrusted to come up with a regulation because as a circular, you cannot enforce it for the banks that are not complying with the circular. But with a regulation, it can be enforced for the banks that are not complying with the circular. So we are hoping that once this regulation is put in force, we are hoping that the banks, we are hoping that the people in diaspora would to some extent bring the foreign exchange into the country, because there are quite a number of incentives that are in the circular, including introducing online, the platform for online transaction, and also ensuring that if one has got an FCD account, is in diaspora, when it comes to Malawi, can get the foreign exchange in hard cash. Lastly, Chair and members and honorable members, is on the import side. Currently, there is a lot of hawara that is going on. The hawara is where there is exchange of funds, but without necessarily the physical funds moving on. So we'll see someone maybe is in South Africa or someone in the UK has got a foreign exchange there, and then I'm in Malawi, and then I would instruct, you just see the huge funds moving from one account to another, when that person on the other side would now bring in the imports. So we are seeing that the game changer on this one is the TT import verification. We are trying to develop the guidelines and also trying to put in place the systems that will be interfaced between amongst the institutions, the bank, the commercial banks, and MRA. This is where if I've got an import and it's coming through the MRA, I have to verify, I have to indeed give proof that the funds that are used for these imports came through the formal channel. One advantage of this is going to dampen the demand on the black market. And as such, we are hoping that with this is going to help the proliferation of the black market activities. Chair and members of Parliament and honorable members of Parliament, just as the MD had mentioned, this is from the technical point of view. We are seeking your support in terms of the informal export. Because, you know, as I said, this country has got the capacity to generate foreign exchange. We can see it because when we see in the supermarkets, we have got these, the merchandise is there. So one is going to ask, where is this foreign exchange coming from? It's coming from within the country. Only that this foreign exchange is in the formal sector. So with what we would want to introduce from the demand point of view from the Reserve Bank, and also with the regulations that we would want to put in place, and also with this new Foreign Exchange Act, if we can come as a team, I'm sure this foreign exchange that is in the formal sector can go to the formal sector. Because the formal sector, all this talk that the country does not have foreign exchange is in the formal sector. So if the formal sector can have this needed foreign exchange, I think these economic fundamentals, we are ensured that the economic fundamentals indeed will be balanced. I submit, Chair and honorable members.
Thank you very much, Leader of Delegation and your team for the two presentations. Honorable members, we are now getting into a time of giving feedback and interventions, recommendations to the two presentations. I'll give a chance to you to do so. Let me know who has such by show of hands. I recognize Sanje Central. I recognize Karonga, Central. Yeah, so we're going Central. To balance it up, let's go to Mzimba, Northeast, in that order, and then I'll take the next set, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Chair. And let me join you in appreciating the presentations from EDF and the Reserve Bank. Chair, I will start with Reserve Bank. Chair, we have a house on fire as a country today. We don't have time to wait for consultations, stakeholders engagements, and develop regulations when the economy is sinking. I was privileged to be in government for some time, and unfortunately, that's how our government is run. To develop a regulation, it will take us 5 years, and things are getting worse by the day. Seriously, I should expect that by now, Reserve Bank should be able to change the way you're operating. Chair, a few weeks ago, I was called by a Malawian, very patriotic, to tell me that we have a problem in the way we are managing balance of earning payments. A lot of money is being externalized in that way by our colleagues, Malawians of Indian origin. They have brought in relatives from Pakistan, India, and other countries. Every month, they are transferring a lot of money in the name of balance of earning payments. I was expecting that as a bank, these are simple issues to deal with. But it seems everything else is extremely difficult to manage. The issue of so many people using, so one person having 50, 100 cards. We have heard about it, people have caught in the airports, nothing happens. And here we are, we come back to talk about we're trying to do something. Can Reserve Bank tell me that maybe there's something serious that is making us fail to deal with things like balance of earning payments, issues of one person having several cards which are being used to externalize money. You have rightly said, today if I go on the streets, I find a lot of vehicles, second vehicles that are being sold. They're being brought into the country. They're not getting $100 getting to Japan to go and pay. I'm sure they're paying using the formal systems. But if somebody who wants to go to the hospital in South Africa is sick, struggles to get the money. You can hardly find the money to get out to go for treatment. But some people are still bringing in those vehicles, second-hand vehicles, draining the dollars that we're struggling to get. I want to understand, really, Chair, why is it that so difficult for us to manage small things? That's my question to Reserve Bank. My question to EDF, don't you think that you are spreading yourself too thinly across the economy? You have talked of mega farms, industrial parks, mining, and the impact cannot be felt. You're talking of buying just about 1 ton of gold in a year. Would we have an impact by buying 1 ton of gold in a year? How much gold is being sold to illegal buyers out there versus what we are targeting as as EDF. We're talking of 1,000 hectares mega farm. Is that really a mega farm? I'm finding difficult. If we are to have to make an impact in our economy, I think we should be able to spend our money on something which will have an impact. Maybe there's a reason. I just want to understand, to appreciate, why should you spread your little resources, because you have complained that your financial base is small. Why should we spend that money in small portions across the economy when you probably could have rightly said gold is a fruit on the ground already? Why not take all that money, go and buy all the gold that is available, and see what impact that can have on our economy? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Nsanje Central. I already recognized 2 more members. Members, let me encourage you to be precise and where possible brief, so that we also have enough time to hear from our stakeholders. However, this is not to restrict the emotions. I like the emotions because them too are a good communication about how patriotic and how concerned we are about the situations that we're in. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, let me thank the 2 presenters from the EDF and the Reserve Bank. It's been a long, comprehensive briefing, and I think we really struggle to streamline our questions, but all the same, we'll try our best. Chair, I just want to... Some of the questions that I had, I think they've been answered, especially on the public awareness of the fund, EDF. How many Malawians are aware of the existence of this fund and how they can access it? You already said these are public funds and they're meant to reach out to the public. So I got the answer when you said you are now all over the country bringing about awareness of the existence of this fund. Thank you very much for that. Malawi is riddled with corruption. And that's the biggest disease that we have currently. We are facing to take off because everywhere you go, and even in the institutions that you did not expect corruption to exist, like banks. Oh, it's a shame. And you know, these are the elite, Mr. Chair, who are practicing corruption at the highest level, punishing an ordinary citizen out there in the village. I don't know how heartless we have become, and yet we call ourselves a Christian nation. No empathy whatsoever to an ordinary citizen out there in the villages. I want to find out, in the same spirit of corruption, in the grapevines we heard that there was a Malawian of Asian origin who accessed funds somewhere there in the Reserve Bank, I think to the tune of over 20 billion kwacha, and he bolted away with that money. How far, how much effort has been invested, one, to bring that fella to justice or to book, two, to recover those funds so that they can go to the right people that deserve to have that money? Mr. Chair, it really breaks my heart. I want to know why we are so obsessed in giving much attention to people you know very well that they're not honest and then leave out our fellow citizens. Just as the Nsanje Central has put it, it's sweet to hear that you are engaged with a 1,000 hectares or hectares project in the name of mega funds to produce legumes and so on and so forth. That is very good. And you have been very generous to tell us those projects. And to me, I know the owners of these projects that they are all white-skinned. And there's nothing wrong. I would have loved if you, because I know of committed Malawian farmers who have even got the land. How much effort have you gone to deliberately empower those Malawian farmers? Why am I so obsessed with the indigenous Malawians? It's simply because I know when you invest in a Malawian, they plow back to the country. Even these issues of the forms we are talking about, you do the exports and the money doesn't come, it only operational money comes back. Well, I would want to know, Mr. Chair, as we walk out of this room, out of this presentation, how many indigenous Malawian farmers, actually, the next person is just next to me. These guys have got vast lands, amounts of land. How much are you investing in these Malawians? And how much effort are you identifying that? Let's reach out to these people. Because I can see here, Balo, is it Balos? What did you say, Balos? Demeter. Yes, fine, thanks. Informal sector, I'm very happy that you recognize that informal sector, if only can be structured properly, can help a turnaround in our economy. Because vast amounts of money are moving informally outside the banking systems. I come from, as I conclude, Honorable Chair, I come from a border town of Karonga. And I would really want to invite you and the Ministry of Trade to Karonga. Spend at least 1 week. Go to Songwe border. See amount of beans that are going out to Rwanda, to Burundi, to Kenya. Amount of groundnuts. And you wonder, why are we foreign exchange deficit? Because all these commodities, this produce has been bought by foreigners. But I'll tell you, which I have told the Minister of Finance, it's not a secret. I've pleaded with him that, can you do something about this? These people come to buy our produce, they come at Songwe border, change the money at the black market rate, at 4,000 kwacha per dollar, but they're buying the commodities at 1,000 something per dollar. Too cheap. And you're losing out on Forex. I've said, why don't we introduce something that anyone who comes to buy our produce here must have proof that their monies went through the banking system. They change their dollars in our banks and they've bought the produce from Malawi to export that. I don't think we would have been crying over foreign exchange. We have a lot of it, and I like the admission coming from you that you can't be talking about not having dollars in this country. No ways. Malawi is a rich country, highly resourceful in everything that we have here. Late Bingwam Tarika, when he told us that Malawi is not a poor country, but it's us who are poor. Malawi is not food insecure. We have plenty of food. Only that we have failed to define our food basket. And he gave us an example. How can you say you are starving when you go to those Nchewu market, what you call Sangano? It's not Sangano, Lizulu. There's plenty of food there. And you say Malawi is hungry. No, it's just that people are unable to buy that. And it's true what the Honorable, you've just said it yourself to say, how can you say we don't have foreign exchange when all our superstores are stocked? Because you can say you have no foreign exchange when you see gaps in those shelves, but they are fully stocked. But something wrong is happening. Hawala, you called it? Hawala? Why before you can even start drafting those desk regulations whatsoever, why don't you tell the Inspector General that something wrong here? These packs, I was going to make a mistake of mentioning, because these are the ones who are doing that. We know it. Sorry, Chair, it's very painful.
Thank you very much. I said I love the emotions. Let's balance it up. I know Zimba Northeast is mostly very brief. And I want to trust my assessment of Honorable Zimba Northeast as you're coming in. Team leader, just to pin the point in the question from Karonga Central, I will put forward a very practical thing that's happening. I've interacted with the business community. They're coming back, or possibly on the same. They've shown me how they're accessing Forex, not from the informal markets, from the banks. Then they are saying it costs me around 3.4, 3.6 from a bank. And these are not secrets. They are generous enough to even demonstrate to me with evidence. Here is a special contract, they are calling it in the banks, which has the official rate, 17.5 something, etc. And then there is a service fee, whatever they call it, which is charged on $1. And then that pushes the price almost to the same. I just wanted to understand the legality of such special contracts as you're responding to Karonga Central. Honorable Mzimba Northeast.
But is it in order that the chair starts with the question that the Zimba Northeast wanted? Actually, I was going to dwell on the same. That just, the issue of corruption and what have you, that some of the dollars that are floating around are through the banks. So if, let's say, an organization, an NGO, has got $20 million that they want to change, it's the bank officials that will call citizens, whether Malawian of origin or non-Malawian origin. They'll say, there's this organization, it wants to change $20 million. What are you offering? And what is there for me? So they will offer the bank, whoever has called them, for the $20 million, will be paying at 3,000. And yours will be $500. That's what is happening. And the banks know. Last time we had an interaction with the Reserve Bank governor, I can't remember if you were in that. That was also mentioned. And that's how most of those dollars are getting out. So we find all the donors, all the NGOs, the money comes through the normal channel. But all of it is going that way. So the dollar there, it's 1751, but the people who are getting it will pay at 3,000. I have been offered by somebody before because we do import fuel. They said, if you want fuel, you have the dollars, but you have to pay at 3,000. That the money is in the bank. And the banks, I'm sure all of them know that that's what is happening. And yet, we're here crying for foreign exchange. And obviously, that's what I think has also pushed the black market. Because if this was available, then but because of that, obviously, the black market also goes up because there's a rate somewhere. So I just wanted to agree with the chair. And then on the issue of gold as one mineral that should be bringing foreign exchange for us. Just 2 weeks ago, just confirm, there were people who've been, I think after the roundup that the army officials had done, everybody was now willing to come to sell their gold at export development. But they come there and you tell them, Osa inachiki kulibe, yeah. For the past 2 weeks, if I'm not wrong, they've been going to the ADF, going back because they are putting drama kulibe. Now, you find if you loiter around EDF or go to the other side, you have these boys who have come from Mitundu, they've come from Kasungu, coming to sell gold
they're told in Drama Kulibe, you go back. What do? Go and find the next person who is Malawian, who is always available with the cash to buy the gold from them. Now, you've gone out, you've sensitized people on the advantages of them selling the gold to government, and yet you don't have the resources available to buy that gold. Those people have just gone back to their old system to go and sell to the foreigners, because the foreigners have got the cash with them there and then. Now, even on the same, if you, Honorable Member from Sanji said 1 ton of gold, believe you me, I think there's quite a lot, like in his district, Karonga.
Yeah,
It was a serious, it was in your constituency, serious gold rush. And you can tell it's a lot of money. But ourselves as a country, Tsanami Tukungona, that we should accept. Because you find the number of foreigners there who are buying the gold, taking it to Tanzania, plenty. I would have thought in this desperate situation, EDF Reserve Bank should have been following every gold, literally have an officer waiting to buy the gold there and then. But you find that all that to see, I would expect somebody to come from Karonga, as a gold, Kunongo, Kukulirongwe, when Mbeya is near, or indeed not even Mbeya, the person who bought it here, even the whatever, he's there with the dollars. And he should come here to Lilongwe to sell the gold. Definitely no. So, and yet you find that maybe the price that they're offering there and here is almost the same, if not the other one, even better. So I think somewhere there's something that we'll talk of technicalities, but I think as a country somewhere, we are not serious. We really don't want to get the foreign exchange. Because on the gold and the produce that Karonga Central said, if you go at the border, you just look at the trucks, you know all of it, it's our own sweat. It's 100 trucks, 40 trucks, they're going. You check the CD1 forms, they're coming from your bank. There's a whole cartel and system using the Reserve Bank. I used to export timber before. You'd find your people would say, so you're like, how now are we going to? Because on export, you expected us to be bringing back the dollars if we exported the timber. For our friends from Tanzania, the Swahilis, they would export using the fake CD1 forms. So in the end, the Malawians feel, why should we be the ones penalized? They are selling it at black market. It means they're getting more than you, who is bringing the money direct through their accounts. And even I said, what about the trucks that carry the goods? If you'd say, okay, the truck that carried these goods was registered in such a company, such a name. If you were to ban to say these trucks are banned, they can't come to Malawi, every transporter is going to refuse. Those Tanzanian transporters will say, I can't carry goods unless I am sure CD1 forms have been whatever. You talked about people paying in advance. In Zimbabwe, when we wanted to buy chickens, day old before, you couldn't buy them in Malawi. You had to buy them from Zimbabwe. When you were importing from Zimbabwe, you had to pay up front. And the bank, they wouldn't tell you which bank to go and deposit the money. They just listed the banks that they wanted. So you'd have like their normal National Bank, Standard Bank, whoever. Prove to us that the dollars that you are bringing in this country, you have paid at a recognized bank. That's the receipt now that I will use when I'm going to get my chickens. And at the border, they had a verification machine to verify that that receipt is indeed coming from National Bank. So I had no choice. I had to go to that particular bank, deposit the dollars, then go and get the. But what happens here is most of these traders will tell Reserve Bank that, no, I'm only supplying the goods to Tanzania. I'll only get payment after 90 days. Most of them are lying. He is at the border. It's not true. Most of them come direct, sell the dollars at the border, then come and buy the produce. They're not going to be getting paid at 90 days in Kenya. It's not true. So somewhere I think the system, honestly, is failing the country. Deliberately. And then how the linkages between export development, people like ADMAC, you have seen export trading has grown within the few years out of Malawi, buying produce, selling it outside. And yet when we saw export development, I thought maybe that's what is going to come in place of what ADMAC should have been doing, coordinating those that have exports. And I don't know how to get it out, but still, we're back to the same. We've got an entity which, at the end of the day, the question will be, how much forex are you really bringing to the country? Anyway, the chair said we shouldn't ask so many questions, but yeah, thank you.
I was thinking, is she just trying to prove me wrong? A more precise question, team leader, would be, of course, what's the allowed time for forex repatriation and reconciliation? Is it 90 days, 120, or 180? Possibly, why is that the most ideal? Can we look into that? Because I think we have more than enough evidence that there are upfront payments being made. I think this is not even a secret. So our regulations responding to the practical issues out there, or maybe we're too theoretical with regards to what the honorable members have just said. I liked when Zimbabwe said, as a country, we should accept Tigugona. Let's not accept. Let's wake up. The question to EDF about gold from Zimbabwe Northeast, as long as it was, or the emotions, is also just to simply ask you, where is EDF when mining is happening in Kasungu? What's like your presence on the ground? Because that's really a very big concern from us. We feel like we know where gold mining is happening. I've personally been to some of those dangerous sites. Along the narrow paths leading there, I've met with, because I didn't ask for their nationalities, I would say Malawian of other origins. I've met them just there. And I know almost what they are doing. I don't think they just love the terrain in Kasungu. I don't think so. They're there for business. They are buying, in short. Where is EDF? Can we improve on this as you're responding? So it's about your presence on the ground, because we feel like you've improved on a lot of things. You just made it in your presentation. Pricing has been reviewed and you're competing. But now, are you present? Let me give you a chance to respond to this. Is it very related, Honorable, or maybe I can take you in the next set? I can.
I wanted to propose, if my colleagues could allow, I'm just looking at the time, if you could just take another round, the final rounds, so that when they're answering, they answer the questions.
Okay. And I think it comes with a promise of brevity. I will therefore sustain the point of order, I call it. Let me continue to take more interventions. Honorable colleagues from RBM, just bear with us and take enough notes as we're asking. Thank you. Now I recognize you, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make sure I don't put enough, a lot of emotions. I will just go straight to the questions. The first questions will go to EDF. I wanted to find out, if EDF did not exist today, what would Malawi be missing? The second question is similar to what my other colleagues have asked. Malawi continues to experience foreign exchange shortages. Why has the EDF intervention not significantly improved the national forex availability 14 years down the line? The other question is, has the EDF reduced Malawi's dependence on tobacco exports? If yes, by how much? It could be in percentage terms, it could be in monetary terms. The other question is, how does the EDF compare with the peer development finance institutions in, say, South Africa, Kenya, it could be Rwanda? How do you rate yourself against your fellow finance institutions? And the final question to EDF. Since EDF was established using public finances, can management quantify in monetary terms the cumulative foreign exchange generated, the jobs created, the export revenue increased, the imports substituted, and even the tax that we have generated, that we have contributed to the country? And the following questions will go to Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank, EDF being your baby, how do you evaluate EDF's performance? Would you stand today and say the EDF has met your expectations as a Reserve Bank? What return, and I wanted this to be answered in economic terms rather than financial terms, has the country received from EDF, according to Reserve Bank of Malawi?
Thank you,
The very final one, and it's similar to what my colleagues hinted. There was a time EDF, I've just learned here that you stopped going out, but then there was a time I know EDF was sending officers to Kasungu, there's Lilongwe, where informal mining is done. Since the mining that is done in these places is more or less informal, which could also be said to be illegal, wasn't your going there, or isn't your going there a form of regularizing an illegal mining? Where do we fail as a country to bring in a big miner so that we trade, we do mining just at the level of Zambia and Mozambique? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Lilongwe City Zenza. Let me know if there is another one. Honorable members, any other taker? Apart from Lilongwe City Zenza, okay. Blantyre City Mbayani Musa Magasa. We'll end there for this set.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. I'll be very brief. My question just, I think, should be one. I think we've seen the presentation these guys have done for us. It's really nice, and I like the fact that EDF has grown quite enormously the past 14 years. It means you're doing a good job. That's within the context of your offices, of course. I'll still go back to what my colleague on my right has just said, Chief West, to say what impact, because now what we want is the impact of EDF to a woman in the Lilongwe City Zenza. I know it cannot be felt like right now, but what we want is whatever is happening, it should still, because it still affects a young boy in Area 25. Whatever EDF is doing is still going back to somebody who is in Karonga at the border. So your presence should be felt to the nation. It's not just about the nice presentation, the growth within your offices and what have you, but we want the impact to a local Malawian. To be very honest with you, I think most of Malawians in our rural setup, they don't know anything about EDF. They are not aware of EDF. Even some land personnel around our cities, they don't know anything about EDF. They'll ask you questions that will not even have answers. And I must confess as well, I've known about EDF because I'm in Parliament. I didn't know about EDF. So your impact needs to be felt to a local Malawian. Therefore, you guys, as much as you're doing very good in the papers, the books, please work on a local Malawian. How can a local Malawian benefit with EDF? So my question was basically to ask, to say, are you guys supporting the SMEs? Why I'm asking, because you've talked about the industrial parks, of which I think you are mostly concentrating on the bigger picture, which is okay, which is very fine. But then, as much as we're concentrating on the bigger picture, we need to have support down there. Support down there is about the local Malawian, the SMSEs, and so on and so forth. So, what support have you given to these local guys on the ground to say maybe they need to develop in terms of value addition and what have you? What support have you really given to these guys on the ground? That was my question basically. But otherwise, it seems you're doing a good job. But then the problem is that we are not getting it down there. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for giving the people of Mbayani Musa Magasa constituency to ask a question. I've got two questions, one to EDF and one to RBM. First question, the purchase of gold by RBM through EDF, according to what you presented, it means you are buying from the informal sector. I have an example. In Blanta, Lunzu River, there are a lot of informal miners doing the job. Now, just wanted to find out, as a clarification, is it EDF going to these informal miners to buy the gold, or the informal miners coming to EDF, and where? Is it here in Longwe, Blanta, or Mzuzu? My second question is going to RBM. You talked about the exports funds not being remitted on time due to reconciliation delays. I recall some time back, the CD1 form was a bit not being used. It was MRI doing the e-forms. And at a certain point, the CD1 form was reintroduced. Just wanted to find out which is the effective way of monitoring the remittances for exports. And if so, what improvements have been made when the CD1 was reintroduced? I have in mind, I'm coming from the private sector. I do my CD1 form as an exporter, but the importer name is something, but when remitting the funds for the exports, is it the same name that exported or is something else? You need to check on that. Your system is not effective, if I may say. There is a loophole somewhere. Even though if we are waiting for the reconciliation of the remittances, someone somewhere is able to beat the system that we have currently. So, just wanted to find, is the seed-one form doing enough to track the remittances for exports being done? You said there are 25 that are being questioned because of non-remittance of the exports process. Why? If one is able to do a seed-one form and sell it somewhere, then the system has got loopholes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. At this point, I hope we've exhausted the interventions from the honorable members. As I give you the moment to respond, you are already noting that there are quite a number of interventions and suggestions already coming from the members, maybe a call for further engagements, and I will be coming to that. As you're responding on the gold mining, just praise this committee on how we are doing with regards to the cooperatives that have always been recommended as a way to go in an effort to curb the term that members are consistently referring to, illegal mining. Colleagues from RBM, we also want possibly an update on the establishment of the National Commodity Exchange, if you have any. I think we have talked about at one point in another forum about modernizing the forex repatriation, the CD1 form issue. As you're responding maybe to the questions, I would love if you take the route of modernization, if there are any efforts for your committee to appreciate. We give you this moment to respond to the interventions, and then we'll move to the closing. Team Reader.
Thank you, Chair. I would request the Managing Director of EDF who would start to respond to the questions relating to EDF. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Chair, and the committee members. Such strategic questions. And I would like to start by saying we are in the same, I don't know, boat, whatever we want to call it. I feel what you feel. I'm just privileged that I am at EDF. I am affected by the same things in the country. And as a citizen, we personally, I'm always thinking about how can we make our country better given the resources we have. And the issues we are hearing are not new. Some could be limitations, others differences in the approach, others areas of insight. There's always wisdom in a group. So others will simply say, we'll work on this. We've heard, I think that if I were to categorize the questions, we have been asked on gold, we have been asked on the impact of EDF. I love the question, if EDF didn't exist, what would be missing? Is it a joy? Is it a pain? Are we a pest? Are we an asset? I think we are going to talk about that issue. And then there are others that are beyond EDF, but I do understand the issues we also comment. Because we recorded the questions not in sequence, Chair, I will be repeating on some of them when answering, because we didn't organize them. I think there was a question to do with are we not spreading ourselves too thinly? And I think the silver line there was, why don't you just put all your money in gold? The answer to this question is that we do not necessarily believe that we are spreading ourselves too thinly. And here's why, Chair. The gold project, we are an agent. So all the money comes straight from Arabia. We are not using our balance sheet. So this is done on a pre-funding arrangement. And I should be quick to answer the question that said we don't have money. There is all the money that we need to buy gold. Reserve Bank has set aside lots of billions. So it's not a question of money. I think what happened, and we do acknowledge that it is indeed true, that the other week, 2 weeks ago, we didn't buy gold. And the reason was that we were changing the system we were doing with the RBM in our financing. We had a previous system where we were refunding ourselves. We would do pay and then claim from RBM. But we've changed for the same reason that Honorable said. We want to have maximum impact, free up our balance sheet, let RBM provide the resources. So in that transition, doing what we needed to agree, we had some technical glitches, but we are back online. I think we can confirm. I also want to ask, Chair, while that was an issue, what we've noted, and Chair, I'm touching a live wire here, but I'll touch it. Perhaps I'm putting on plastic. The issue is that as a country, we should learn to encourage. When something happens once, let's not talk about it as if the whole year, this is what has been happening. We've been buying gold. We pay same day. This happened as an event. It's not something that happens all the time. And I think our people need to learn to be positive in our thinking. I think that is very, very important. I'm not directing it to Honorable Member, but I think we can also talk to our people to say, when something happens, don't talk as if don't throw the baby together with the bathwater. We need to hold hands and work on these issues. So, Chair, the gold is quarantined. It's something that Reserve Bank is financing. It doesn't affect our resources towards something else. So, yes, we are prioritizing that. On the other side, we are faced with the question of saying, with 122 billion, if you were to take all that money and invest it in one project, is that what will give the maximum impact? Our analysis shows that that's not the best thing to do. The thing to do is we position ourselves to say, with these limited resources at the moment, where are we going to have maximum impact? So, for example, I said the project preparation, which we are the first in the country, at least in recent history, to come up with this product. Because we have had the ideas. Should I stop, Chair?
It's the point of order, Honorable.
I was thinking that as he answers the...
Sorry, MT, may you switch off the mic?
I just wanted to ask, as a matter of procedure, that questions have been asked according to the constituencies. And I thought that the responses as well should come according to constituencies. I think that's a practice here.
Thank you very much. That point of order is sustained. If you can recall, team leader, please remember to acknowledge where the question came from. But I know maybe being the guidance that I'm providing midway, you may not have captured that. I will also let you be flexible. I hope that covers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies ahead of time. I did not record. And the sincere apologies. That wasn't meant to disrespect. Perhaps we just didn't record the procedure. So we hope that we can be forgiven. Where I'm able to recall, I'll be able to say it. Yeah. So I was talking about the issue of project preparation. It's a recent initiative we've done, and I think it's bearing fruit. We shouldn't be talking about industrial parks being implemented now with the focus if we didn't do this initiative. So we believe with little resources, we pumped just over $1 billion or so. Once this comes online, because we attract now the financing, you have de-risked it, we are talking of the investment of over 300 million. So we believe that is where we need to put effort, but we can't put money just in project preparation, because you also need to make returns, you need money for short term, and therefore you have to diversify. So given that you do that, you also say, okay, in the manufacturing industry sector, should we focus on one line of activity or several? There are different reasons why you want to do several, but without putting the resources too thinly. So I do agree, but we can't focus on one value chain. Because if you focus on one value chain, then you are not a good risk manager. You can't put your eggs in one basket, because by the end of the day, you must continue to exist as you support the economy. So diversification is important, but how far you diversify, indeed, you shouldn't spread yourself too thinly. So, Chair, I think we balance issues of risk management, issues of impact, issues of policy, and to make sure that the impact is amplified. So I think, in short, that's how I would answer that question. I want to put all God issues together, so I'll skip some of the God issues. How many Malawians are aware of EDF? I think that was just an encouragement to say, you've started to do awareness, why don't you amplify and make sure that every Malawian knows? So I think that's good advice, Chair, and we'll move in that direction. There was an issue to do with the corruption. This is a disease. I think we cannot agree more, and I can't agree more. And there was a specific issue to do with the Malawian of Asian origin who boarded away, I think, from Honorable here, Mwenefumbu. Yeah. So, say, what have we done? So to put matters in context, we believe this is to do with cotton giners. It happened in 2017, and the figure was in 20 billion. So EDF lost 5 billion in that transaction. It was a syndicated transaction, banks lost in there, so maybe the figures are talking about inclusive of other banks. The update is that I think the perpetrators were apprehended. It's a court case, it's a criminal case. We've been working with the DPP. They are still prosecuting the case. So I think that is what is going on there. In terms of EDF not prioritizing Malawians. Are there Malawians we have supported? It seems we are focusing on non-indigenous Malawians and foreigners. When the country is best developed by its people. Chair, we do agree that a country would develop by its people. Anyone else who comes to say, I will develop a country for you, is just there to plunder. They will give you some change. And therefore, there is indeed need for us to raise champions, and that is within our strategic plan. For instance, that's where we are talking about press agriculture. This is a proper Malawian company. We believe it's the biggest landholder. If we do things well, I think that will be a champion in the agriculture sector. Over the time, we didn't have time to list all the people have supported, and that also answers the issue of small SMEs and ordinary Malawians. We've supported the farmers at small scale production of sugar cane to supply to Salima Sugar. We've supported production of horticulture in Mangochi. We've done that, a farm there of Malawian. Chair, I will not be able to say the names because these are confidential matters. I don't want to have litigation tomorrow in court. I think some of these issues are private. We didn't seek permission. So I'll be mentioning some of them in a generic manner. So, for instance, as I said in Mangochi, we supported a farm of 100 hectares. It's owned by a Malawian. It's something that it didn't work as well, but it was a step in the right direction. We are still dealing with the investor. We've supported many other Malawians. Chair, we can support, we can provide statistics later on. But I also want to say, Chair, what we've noted, we may not like this, but it is true. Yeah. Out of the many Malawians we have supported, when an institution is a public institution, I don't know, it's a disease, I want to call it a disease. We feel that this is our money and therefore we are not going to repay. So people who come, they'll present a business case, we support, but the default rate is quite high. And this category, I think our plea is to say we need to improve. Because as a financial institution, Chair, we always assess, we look at the history, we look at the risk. It's not that we don't want to, but if we continue to default, it will look like we don't want to do business with certain categories of people. And that's just a fact, Chair. I know it may be insensitive, but it's a fact. Some Malawian businesses, we are not honest, we are not faithful in managing resources and repayment. And the Chair, also to say on the mega farms side, we've assessed many projects. What we see is that there will be, and this is why we did project preparation. People will come with a good idea. So when you meet them, they will come with a good idea. But when you sit down to say, let's sit down, structure a deal, then you discover that the business is far from where it should be. And what are we doing about it? Under the project preparation, we provide advisory. Let's do this way, that way. Can you do this? When we get here, this is how we can scale up. Because it's not just about quantum. So we are focused on supporting Malawian businesses. We've done that at large scale, at medium scale, at small scale. But Chair, we have that challenge. We need to acknowledge if we are going to develop. I want to move on to talk about I think informal sector at Songwe was a lamentation that we need to deal with. I think RBM will comment on that issue. From our end, I think we may not be able to competently comment. There is an issue by Honorable from Karonga, right? Yeah. Nzimba, yeah, from North Nzimba. So the issue to do with the ADMAC, EDF, export development, facilitation of exports outside of our borders. Chair, this is a serious issue. And what I can say is that government institutions, we need to work together. On the part of EDF, Chair, we are a financial institution. As a financial institution, we are not in the real sector. So we don't do commodity trading directly as EDF. We've tried to do that before, we phased it out, it didn't work well. So even now we are regulated by the Registrar of Financial Institutions. We are not expected to touch anything in terms of the real sector other than financing. We can do that indirectly by coming up with the subsidiaries in the real sector, but not EDF directly. So EDF wouldn't do what ADMAC does. We cannot mobilize and take produce out. We need the real sector players. And in this regard, we've worked with ADMAC. We've supported ADMAC before to export cotton, export chilies. We supported ADMAC to purchase other commodities until of late when ADMAC was restructured. So we are open to working with every institution, including we've worked with the AHL, Commodity Exchange before. So we are available to finance, but we are limited in what we can do. Yeah, so Chair, I think that's what I would do, comment in that regard. I want to address, there was a question to say, how do we measure ourselves against fellow DFIs in SADC? I want to expand it to say in Africa. Chair, I said that as part of our strengthening governance and the risk management, we subscribe to the African Association of Development Finance Institutions and also the SADC DFRC. Under both institutions, we do what we call prudential guidelines as standards for governance and risk. And as we speak, actually, we are submitting a report as EDF. It happens every 2 years. And I said that we were upgraded to A rating, and that is across. So once you pass those tests, you are able to say we are doing well or we are doing not well. So as it were, EDF compares well. And Chair, I want to say that it's not many DFIs. You can just go online, find the public statement, their financial results. The NPLs for DFIs are high. They are usually above 10%, others 25%. EDF is at 5%. So in terms of management, I think that we are doing well in relative terms. In terms of size, we are relatively small, but there are also many small DFIs. So Chair, I think we compare ourselves on comparables because we have that levelized scale of measurement. There is the I want to touch on God before I come from the very pointed questions on why EDF. So on God, Chair, we understand the frustrations. We are equally frustrated. But there is a history to this, Chair. When we started out, and this is a project for artisanal and small-scale miners who are mining gold. What the committee needs to understand is that we have got both a challenge and an opportunity in the gold sector, in as far as this sector is concerned. The illegality, informality has been happening in the absence of RBM doing anything. If RBM stops today, it will continue no matter what we do. People know there is gold in the ground. They find it in their backyard. It's just somebody who doesn't know, maybe even English, they don't know what a license is. They want to feed their family. They are going to mine. That problem is not localized to Malawi. It is everywhere where there is gold done by small-scale artisanal miners. It is in Tanzania, it is in Zimbabwe, it is in Ghana, it is in Ethiopia. It is everywhere, Chair. Now, the question becomes to say, what do we do? How do we regularize? There are two approaches. It's either you claim to say, we are going to enforce the laws as they are, everyone must get a license. I think that's an exercise in futility. Others may not agree, but it means that you have to give licenses of gold to over 1 million people for governance management on the government side. I mean, that is a humongous task. So how do you organize? Should you arrest these people? What do you do with them? Even if you arrest one on the backyard there, another one will do it somewhere else. Thieves have never ended. We've been arresting people, but people are still stealing. This issue, I'm not saying they are thieves, but I'm saying if we say without a license you can't mine, it's not possible, Chair. It is not possible everywhere else. So when we started the project, the question was, should we go into the sector? The answer is yes, because at least you capture the gold. It will help the country. So it's a question of life and death and not right and wrong. Right and wrong is not always right. There has to be life and death. The country needs the resource. How do we get the resource? So when we said yes, we did consultations. How do we deal with the sector? We did study visits. Personally, I went to Zimbabwe, we went to Ghana, went elsewhere. Our friends have learned that aggression only pushes the sector further underground, and you lose the whole essence. So you use moral suasion, give incentives in form of pricing, in form of other incentives, that will encourage the people to sell the gold. And then you begin to organize the sector like the government is doing. We talked about cooperatives at certain levels, so that not everybody goes to the Ministry of Mining or Mining Authority to get a license. It simply will not work. So that's what Malawi adopted. Instead of saying we can only buy from somebody who shows us a license, the truth is most of those miners, they are called guedjas. They have no license, so who are you going to buy from? So in trying to uphold something that is indeed good, but it will not solve the issue. So we do buy even from the one that has got no license. As far as they are Malawians, we collect their IDs, we know where they stay, and then we regularize as we go up the stream. The second issue that needs to be talked about the project is, do you open buying centers at every mine? What are the considerations? You've got the cost considerations, because the cost you invest in is a build-up into the entire cost. You have got security considerations. And one thing I think that the members may also be interested to know is that these miners, they go to mine based on the pre-funding. So the ones that are given the money to say, go look for gold. And then when they find, they give back. We tried it with a cooperative in Balaka when we started the project. We gave them money, and you know what they did, Chair? For some time, they were going to buy the gold, and now they will sell the gold to Mozambique on our money. And then when we go, they say, no, we haven't bought anything. And now within themselves, they'll be coming to say, actually, we have been buying, we are making money on this. And it's just that we were lucky that we were able to recover the money. And guess what? One of the sons of the chief there was a ringleader. And so we can't be able, as maybe the committee can give us wisdom on that. In as far as you're a government institution, you give money in advance. Just know that you are going to have high levels of default. So how do we counter? The counter is in two measures. Number one, you need to tighten the security. And that was the biggest issue. And we are grateful that the government did what it did, and it will continue to do, we hope so. Because once the security is there, then you twin it with the pricing. You price in such a way, we do research, what is happening in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and what. You put an incentive, you take into account the transport issues, you take into account an incentive to say, do I really want the risk of going to be hacked in Mozambique and what? So the people will be attracted. But it will not be the person on ground that will always come. And that's not what we should fight for. Because if we do so, we are also limiting the integration of the project. So they are also middlemen, just like we have in the agriculture sector. Allow the market to develop, legislate these people that are more organized, let the others organize themselves at corporate level, and make sure that we are satisfying our laws, including financial crimes laws. So I think we opened the centers, Chair, we were moving. What we discovered is that the costs are unsustainable. And this is what others have discovered. In Zimbabwe, they started out with the 22, over 22 buying centers. It was Fidelity Printers who did that. And they just noted that it was just making the losses extreme. So they had to redesign. So they encouraged aggregators to buy, and then they buy from these aggregators, organize themselves. And that's what we've been doing of late, to make sure that we capture the gold, the price is good enough, security is there. We may not be everywhere on the understanding that it's not just the miner we are targeting. As long as the gold comes legitimately, that's what we should be doing. That said, Chair, of late, I think in Karonga, indeed, there's an influx there of gold. In Nsanje, Zomba. So we've been to these sites. And what we are doing is we need to mix still, increase our buying centers. So we'll be opening 9 buying centers, starting with Karonga, Nzuzu, Nsanje, we are Mangochi. We are opening also in Balak and others. So we are working with banks the way we have a center in Liwonde. So, Chair, we are addressing that issue. It also does balance with the security. I shouldn't be here today. I should have been shot down either in Blantyre or in Nchinji when we started the project. We were almost robbed. And it's not a safe issue. So we don't want to risk the lives of people just because we want to be at every mine. That would be good, but we need to balance with the security considerations and other issues, Chair. So I think in terms of, there was an extension to this to say, why are we focusing on the artisanal and small scale? So these are the buying programs that focus on that group, but that does not stop us as a country. And as EDF and the bank, we are encouraging. It's beyond us now to do the exploration. That is the Ministry of Mining. It needs to work on that issue. But for us, we are saying If there are others who want to do exploration at large scale, to the extent our balance sheet can support that activity, we are willing to do so. That will be purely a financier as EDF, but not EDF or the central bank, unless the central bank thinks differently, that they will start digging for gold. But that is encouraged, Chair. I want now to come to the issue of the questions. If EDF never existed today, what would Malawi be missing? Chair, the first answer is in the question itself. We are asking this question because EDF exists. The question should be, to what extent has EDF assisted us? What have we contributed? And Chair, if in the presentation I highlighted some things which some I'll repeat, but I want to...
Sorry, MD.
Yes.
To cut you. I may encourage you to look at those things that you think were not part of the presentation. So that we also just manage our time.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, number one, as we speak, if you go towards Jilega Airport, there is a fertilizer, organic fertilizer company that's about to be commissioned. They have installed everything. It has got a throughput of at least 25,000 metric tons a year. When you consider the landing cost of fertilizer, somewhere around $700 per ton, looking at what they are doing, the import substitution, not that much, but still significant at $17 million as it stands now, once these ones go into operation. That project wouldn't be there, Chair.
Sorry, MD, to cut you. I also want to give time to RBM to tackle their questions. In my concluding remarks, I will surely be coming back to this question, and I will provide maybe a methodology for how we can tackle this question. I know the context in which the honorable member asked the question. So let's look at, out for the closing remarks, because I will take that one. I thank you.
Okay, Chair, then I yield back.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, MD. I will try to quickly respond to the questions that were directed to RBM. First of all, with your indulgence, Chair, let me respond the question from Honorable Member Sanjay Central and Mzimba Northeast. I will respond them together because they are hinging on the oversight role of the central bank. Indeed, Honorable Member from Sanjay Central, that indeed it takes time to come up with an act or indeed a regulation. However, where there's a will, there's a way. Because recently, as the bank, we've managed to come up with a regulation in 2 or 3 months. We have fast-tracked the processes. And as I'm talking now, the regulation, the tourism regulation, is now with the Ministry of Tourism, just waiting to be forwarded to the Ministry of Finance for gazetting, because everything was done in the space of 2 months. Whilst this has been said, we still feel that we have a role to push that the regulation be gazetted in time, possibly within this month. But we sincerely appreciate for that comment. The other question was on the balance of earnings. You've mentioned that you were tipped that this country, there's a lot of the leakage of foreign exchange through balance of earnings, through Malawians of different origin. And also there was the issue of the debit cards that, yes, it would be in the papers, but at the same time, we don't hear anything after that. Quite a number of the cases. Honorable Member Mzimba Northeast, you also mentioned that it's difficult for Malawians with a legit need to get foreign exchange in the banks. Yet the market is awash with the foreign exchange, with this liquidity that is coming from the formal sector. It's coming from the formal sector to the informal sector, and this is being facilitated by commercial banks. You also asked the question regarding these forward rates, these forward contract rates, whether it's illegal or indeed not. Chair and the Honourable Member Mzimba Northeast and in Sanje Central, the issue of balance of earnings, let me say first of all that following the liberalization of the foreign exchange in 1994, all the transactions, the current account transactions, were delegated to commercial banks, such that the processing of imports, processing of exports, processing of the remittances, and indeed even balance of earnings is done by commercial banks. Of course, the Reserve Bank, the role of the Reserve Bank is to come up with a regulation, to come up with a directive to govern the operation of these transactions. So when we say this, we know that indeed there's something that we've not, maybe we have not done our work in terms of the oversight. They say that the systems are strong as the people themselves. So the regulations are there, but there are these officers who are fronting, who are facilitating this malpractice. But all the same, this is something that we will need to go back and try to get the information and analyze how much of this has been externalized through the balance of earnings, through the Malawians of different origin coming to Malawi as if indeed they are legit workers, but then just transferring the foreign exchange. But this has to be also in collaboration with the other institutions, Minister of Labor, who issue these work permits, and also immigration, who issue these documents. There's now the issue of the forward rates. On the market side, on the forward rates, it's indeed is something that is the banks, they do that. It's different from the spot rate. If they say the spot rate, if they do it today, charging that markup, indeed there are huge penalties. But now with what is happening on the ground, the Reserve Bank is taking into account, has taken into account of that to see that it regulates that space, because even on the international market, the forward contracts, the forward rates are allowed. But now the banks have been smart. They know that they can make a kill through these forward rates. So they will do that maybe 7 days. 7 days is a spot, honestly. It's not a forward contract. So this is where now the Reserve Bank is coming in to see if it can regulate this space. There was an issue of a honorable member from Karanga Central. Thank you so much for your insightful questions regarding the formalizing the structured markets. Indeed, just as the MD has said, you know, even from where I'm sitting, I'm at pains when I see the foreign exchange getting out. When I go to Kalonga and I see these trucks at Chilumba going out, when I see all those mills along the road, and I go to Songwe border, I say, where are these collaborating institutions? Where are the honorable members? Where are they to inform the Malawians to say, if you see this, please report it to the police? So it needs to have to be the collaboration between, indeed, us as the institution, the Reserve Bank, because we work hand in hand with the MRA. And also the law enforcement agents. I was glad you mentioned, because I keep on saying, I don't want to say specific, I keep on saying the law enforcement agency you mentioned. I'm glad that maybe it could be through this committee that it could bring this issue to the law enforcement agency to say, how, as Malawians, as institutions, how can we work in collaboration to solve this problem of informality? Because the level of informality in this country is, it's a different level, it's quite high. Indeed, there was also a question that was to say, what, I think you mentioned through Chair, you mentioned in terms of where are we in terms of the structured markets on the informal sector, the issue of the commodity exchange. With your indulgence, Chair, you know there's something that is and through the structure, through the Minister of Finance and Minister of Trade, maybe at an opportune time, maybe the bank can respond to this, or indeed the right institution in terms of the operationalization of the commodity exchange market. The question that honorable member from Karonga Central that you asked, and indeed this is something that we've had the discourse with the Minister of Trade and the Minister of Finance to say, okay, it's an open market, it's a liberal market. However, depending on the problem that the country is facing, one can introduce some controls which might be against the World Trade Organization. This is the issue of trading, either on an open account or indeed pre-financing. That's what honorable member from Zimba Northeast also you had mentioned to say in Zimbabwe. They said that on this particular product, you cannot trade on an open account. You have to be pre-finance. This is something that we've been discussing, and possibly we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel regarding whether indeed, more especially on the commodities, on the agricultural commodities, where that there can be a regulation, whether there can be indeed a pronouncement by the minister to say from now on, all these commodities have to be done through the pre-financing, just like the CD1 forms. They were introduced. These CD1 forms are strictly on the commodities. These are from Minister of Trade, MRA, and the Reserve Bank. I mean, in terms of monitoring, because these other commodities, they do the open accounts and they do reconcile the medium or indeed large scale exporters. But for the commodities, they introduced this, not the CD1 forms, but the customs control warehouse. For the other exports, you need not to have the customs control warehouse. But for the commodities, for you to export, after you've gotten a license from Minister of Trade, you go to the Minister, MRA, you ought to have this customs control warehouse document that indeed it proves that you have these commodities in the warehouse. They were not necessarily owning the warehouse, but you can rent the warehouse. But it is something that it shows that indeed you have the commodities. But as I said, the problem is the problem is that someone comes to the Reserve Bank. Let me also mention this, that currently is now the CD1 forms just from last week. Every process is now being done by commercial banks. Previously, the Reserve Bank used to do that, but this was retail, just like the EDF was indeed engaged in so many other things. But then they had to return to its mandate, to return to their mandate, to return to the. So currently, when you want to export, all the processes, they are done at the. Sorry, this is a retail business. However, the Reserve Bank keeps on monitoring the information that comes from the Reserve Bank, from the commercial banks. The systems are interfaced. We see from this side, and we are the ones who know that this one has reconciled and this one has not reconciled. So this is an issue that will remind our stakeholder institutions whether this can also be introduced, more especially on the commodities in terms of pre-financing. With regard to scrap metal is pre-financing. It's not open account. They export using pre-financing. So they bring the funds and they show that the funds, they're in their FCDA, then the CD1 form is issued. So similarly, this can also be extended to the commodities. The question from honorable member from Lilongwe Citizens, you've mentioned that as the Reserve Bank, can you assess, since it's your subsidiary, can you assess whether it's done its work or not? And you were quick to say we should not explain it in terms of financing financials, because they presented that they're financially sound in terms of their capital adequacy, in terms of the non-performing loans is on the threshold of 5%, and also in terms of their solvency. I would say yes. As a subsidiary, yes. Of course, we might not say maybe 100%, but as a subsidiary, yes, it has performed, because ETF is funding the entities that are engaged in activities that are supporting import substitution, like the fertilizer that he had mentioned. So without that funding, this institution would not have been there, this entity would not have been there. But at the same time also, it's going in the space that at first it was 100% informal, like the gold mining. With the introduction of, with EDF starting to buy the gold in the sector, the gold is mining, the gold market was now made public. People started to know that, oh, so one can sell gold, oh, so one can do this. So I would say, yes, it has made a difference in terms of generating export, but also in terms of import substitution. From Blantyre, my apologies if I did not get correctly. From Blantyre Mbayani, you asked the question that which is the effective way of monitoring export. Previously, there was the CD1 forms, and then it was removed, but then it was reintroduced. And you've also mentioned that there are loopholes in the CD1 forms because you can see from that end there are some leakages. Since you are in the private sector, you are in the export sector. Chair, with your indulgence, if that is allowed, maybe there are some intricacies in the presentation. Maybe if you could allow to engage the honourable member just for our knowledge, because this is going to inform our policy where there are loopholes. But maybe I would allow my colleague Emmanuel, if you might have something to add on the processes of the CD1 form, how we do the CD1 form. But before you respond, Chair, you had mentioned in terms of repatriation of the number of days, whether it's 20, 120 or 90. Previous, it used to be 120. However, the Minister of Finance directed that it should be 90. As I'm talking now, the regulation is with the Minister of Finance, that is containing the issue of scrapping the surrender requirement and also reducing the number of days from 120 to 90. It's just awaiting gazetting. I submit, Chair, but let me ask Emmanuel if you have something to add maybe on the CD1 forms.
Through you, Chair, thank you, Leader of Delegation. On the issue of CD1 forms, there is a concern that some goods do go out, but then we don't see the funds. How come the system is not working in either making sure that the goods do not go out or the funds are tracked and they are brought here? So ideally what is supposed to happen is that if an exporter takes goods and goes to the border through MRA, if they did not declare with RBM, in cases where the value of the goods are more than $3,000, $2,000, the MRA officer is not supposed to allow those goods to exit Malawi, all right? So there are two ways in which it happens, why it is still happening. One, either the goods were smuggled out without passing through the MRA officer, or two, they passed through the MRA officer, but for some reason the MRA officer did not do what is required. So ideally what is supposed to happen is that this exporter is supposed to start by declaring through the CD1 form system that they intend to export these goods. So as the leader of delegation mentioned, they have to go through their bank, whether it's National Bank, Standard Bank, and inform them that they intend to export some goods. So at the bank, they will help them to create a profile in the system, and they will collect the information regarding the export, what goods are exporting, what is the value, to which country, and all related information. Once that commercial bank collects the information, it comes to RBM immediately before it even reaches MRA office. And at this point, the exporter can't go to MRA office and export. Once the information reaches RBM, we look at the data, and once we are satisfied that they have collected sufficient data or required data, we approve it that, okay, now you can go to MRA. So there are two cases. Case number one is where they want to export the goods before the funds have arrived. Case number two is where the funds have arrived, which we call pre-financing, and the goods will exit later. So to start with the pre-financing, then I'll end with the other case. The pre-financing,
they declare that I have received these funds, and by law, those funds have to be received through the banking system. Then the commercial bank will have to provide this information through the seed-one farm system to RBM that we have received these funds, and actually provide evidence that here's the evidence we have received these funds. This exporter intends to export maybe soya worth so much. So once we are satisfied with the information we have received and we have cleared it that, okay, the goods can now go to the border and they can exit through the MRA officer, the RBM system, the seed-one farm system, is linked with the MRI system, the SCUDA, so that information is transferred to the MRI system, so that the MRI officer has that information readily available. They know how much this exporter declared. So what they're supposed to do is to make sure that whatever is being exported, whatever information the exporter provides, should match with the information that we provided. Especially, they should make sure that the goods that are exiting should not be of higher value compared to what they declared as the pre-financed amount, the funds we have received. Once they are satisfied that, no, this information is in line with the RBM information in the system, they can clear the goods. We say they can allow the goods to be dispatched, which means they have now exited Malawi. The moment they do that, they're supposed to provide information in their SCUDA system, and automatically that information comes to RBM through the seed-one farm system, so that on our side we know what went out and what is the value. And we check, is it in line with what the exporter declared here? Any discrepancy has to be investigated until we resolve the issue. So this is the case of pre-finance. We have received the funds in advance. The second case is where the funds will be received in future. So what happens is that...
Team leader, I appreciate, I think, the response. He's taking us through the process. We wanted more of a report. I kind of think the member who asked the question at this point must have been satisfied if I understand the spirit in which he asked it. And safe to say he has some information to share, as you had requested over the break. He's available to shed more light. And this is only the beginning of our engagement. It's the first time the bank is meeting the committee of this cohort. Remember, we are a new committee, and in this cohort, therefore, this must be the first time, and we're looking forward to more future engagements where maybe we can expand more on how the two play out in practice. Therefore, honorable members, I wanted to curtail this conversation now, and we proceed to our lunch break, considering that the next stakeholder is almost already knocking on our doors. We've received the information that they're in. To the bank, we want to sincerely thank you for honoring our invitation and for providing all the insight which will really inform our next engagements. Your committee is very eager to support you in your work through oversight, registration, and even representation. There are times as the bank, you may have legislation that you want passed. We are here for you. Your committee would at any cost avoid running up with things they do not understand. Therefore, I encourage you, should that need arise, let this committee be part of the formulation of the legislation, because we will need to represent you in that house, and then we need to stand up with knowledge rather than ignorance. We also want to thank EDF for the thorough presentation. It's eye-opening. It was long, I must say, but worthy being that long because we needed to understand you comprehensively. And similarly, we pledge our support to your work. In the spirit of furthering our understanding of what EDF is doing, here members are still just picturing, okay, they are supporting beans production. Maybe they have other opportunities where they can also share with you, but it will really depend on how best they understand you. Therefore, it will be of interest to the committee to appreciate some of these projects that you have highlighted here. How are really they playing out in the field? At an opportune time, I think as we continue to engage, let's consider these members appreciating what these are, where are they. To the bank, or maybe to EDF still, in the next engagement, you may have noticed the passion from the members specific to the members of the citizenry that they represent. They are calling for your support towards Malawians. If I extend, Malawians of Malawian origin. Therefore, you have shared with us a very serious concern about performance of the loans which go towards this. We don't want to take this as an assertion. And of course, in here, we are under live coverage. It would not be prudent for you to share or to list the beneficiaries and maybe some of those challenges. But as your committee, we are nevertheless still very much interested in that information. So I encourage you, or rather, I request that you organize a write-up for us where you can provide a report which disaggregates the performance by the criteria that we're just discussing. We just want to see what we talk to our masses down there, because we tell them you're non-performers, then they will tell us, but there is 5 billion lost, not to a Malawian of Malawian origin. So we also want to be evidence-oriented in that regard. To the bank, we have not dealt much on the macro issues which affect trade and industry development. We would like to further engage you on understanding this. An issue of interest in promotion of industrialization, your committee would like to understand how far we are going with the efforts of reducing domestic borrowing, as this has been shared with the two ministries, both Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Trade. We have been promised that they will reduce, the government will reduce on domestic borrowing so that they free up the space and make credit available for private sector. We want to understand whether this is working and to what extent. Are we winning? Is money available today in the banks for our private sector? And you may go further to see if it goes to the private sector. Is it going to production or to consumption? We are very much interested so that we can also inform the policy directions together with the executive. Reaching this far, let me once again thank you for showing up and honoring our invitation. Let me also go ahead to accept the apologies of the governor. We understand and that's accepted. We thank you. In case before we leave, you may have a word.
Thank you, Chair, and honorable members. We just want to appreciate this opportunity for the bank and the ADF to come and make presentations on the development, more especially in the export sector. There have been quite a number of insightful issues, the points. Some, indeed, from here, they are going to shape policy, or indeed in the way I would say in our modus operandi. But otherwise, thank you so much, Chair and honorable members.
Thank you very much, and this marks the end of our engagement. Honorable members, we will stay behind just for a minute as we allow the stakeholder to take leave. You are free. Thank you very much.